Welcome to part 5 of the Python Finance series on value investing stock analysis. So this episode I'm going to cover two major topics, I guess. So one is actually, the first one is just a continuation of the previous episode where we parse all the data into Python data frame. We need this for pretty much any kind of numerical analysis. And two is graphing. All right, let's get started. But before I do, just one PSA, if I can ask of my subscribers or wherever this content is seen. So, I'm always asking people to share, subscribe, and all this stuff. I've had the best sort of awareness through Reddit. I think most of you came through Reddit, and Reddit is awesome. I find it really fascinating. People have all this sort of niche, sort of passion type stuff, but I tried to sort of post on Reddit a couple of times, and I got flagged. They thought I was super promotional. They don't want this, shameless self-promotion type stuff. But as you can see, I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm just teaching people how to do Python finance, right? So it's pretty tough to get through, the communities. And if you are a Facebook group admin or a Reddit, what do you call these people? Oh yeah, moderators. And you like my content, or if you know anybody who is a moderator or a Facebook group admin, and if it's okay with you guys and you like my content, I'd love to kind of get more exposure. And if it's cool with you guys, please email me, tewu@gmail.com, or you can just put comment below and let me know if it's cool to post on your stuff. Obviously, it has to be a relevant group or a subreddit, right? Like finance, investing, stock, or whatever, right? It can't be anime or something. Anyway, if it's cool with you, definitely let me know. I'd love to get more exposure. By the way, part of the reason why I'm doing this is not necessarily just because I'm trying to be a YouTuber. I don't really find popularity all that enticing. So I had this sort of a health issue before where I kind of had this thought, what if I die tomorrow? If I have kids in the future, will they ever know what I was like what I knew? Or if I could actually pass down what I've learned my lifetime, can I sort of do that? And this is sort of my personal legacy thing too. At the same time, I do find it fascinating that people are watching it. So it's a personal legacy thing, as well as trying to grow this community as well. So anyway, make the story short, if you are a moderator and you're okay with me posting my stuff, I definitely, of course, having a referral into the subreddit is obviously much better than just here I am, just spam the hell out of your sub, right? So anyway, so I thought I'd put myself out there. Anywho, all right, let's get started. So if you recall, what we did was we downloaded this file from Symfin, right? It's an NVIDIA quarterly report that has all these nice numbers formatted with all the columns nicely done. That's one of the reasons why I keep telling them it's such a great service. Doesn't cost any money for now anyway. So we read that into Pandas data frame, right? We do some pre-processing. By the way, if you're a data scientist or a data engineer, and if you are trying to get into it, it's a hot field right now. A lot of this stuff is sort of grunt work type stuff. You gotta do cleaning and looking at data sources and things like that. So just letting you know. So we dropped the nan rows, right? The rows that are just all nans, right? And then we basically had the algorithm. Okay, we're gonna look for the string in this column that has these keywords, right? Balance sheet, profit loss statement, cash flow statement. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna look for that row. We're gonna go take all the cells and the rows and the columns all the way until we hit this balance sheet thing. Let me see. And then we're just gonna go 2 up, right? Or if you did drop NA, I guess you could just go 1 up. So we're gonna do the same for index CF, which is the index of the row that has the word cash flow statement, and index BS, which has the index of the row that has the cell that has the word balance sheet. Yeah, that's a tongue twister. So anyway, so now we know the row numbers. Remember, these row numbers is not these row numbers, right? It's the row numbers of this data frame that we did this operation on, right? So you gotta not forget that. So it will change, -1, -2. It will kind of change based on what you've done processing on. So you might see me say like it's -2 or -1. It's because I forget if we did any like drop NA or something like that. So if you recall, so we took a subset of the data frame, which is the entire data frame minus the drop NA, and then we were able to look for the row numbers with the profit loss statement and the balance sheet, and then -2, which basically kind of like took the bottom row out, and then we got 1 colon basically that gets rid of this this column, right? So now we have that thing right here, and then we said the first row is actually the columns. So if you say dot columns equals the first row, right, dot ilog 0, so it became that, and we said the set index, right, we want to say that this is index, right, in millions USD. It's technically not, but I just want to get rid of that first row because this is the index currently, like this column 2, which is not even doesn't make any sense, right? So we got rid of that by saying set the index to 2, and that became this column became the index, and we had these funny rows, funny cells with this NaN. You can't, this means nothing, right? NaN means nothing. So in business, like not a number means 0. So we just fill NA with 0, right? And in place equals true, because if you don't do in place, it just returns another data frame. So we have this nice, pretty profit income statement data frame. Oh, by the way, I forgot to take this row out. Because remember, this row is now the header, right? So the way you can do that is just simple dfpl equals dfpl and 1 colon. So this means so I don't know if you guys took NumPy or any kind of numerical analysis stuff, but anyway, this means stuff you put here, right? This is rows and column, right? So it's whatever row, it will basically splice those rows and columns out. So if I say 0 colon, this is actually, I don't want to assign the value. If I do 0 colon, this means this is the same as dfpl. This is same as dfpl. So this is same as dfpl, right? Because it's like saying, okay, dfpl means the object. Take the whole object from 0 to the end. This says 0, and if there's something here, that means to the end, right? So 0 to the end is same as this thing, which is 0 to the end, and this is same as df colon, which means beginning to the end. If you don't specify, it means beginning to the end, right? These are all same. These are all same values. Let me just comment that. So these are all same. So what we want to do is we want to get rid of that row, right? Because that's the header row, right? Right here you can see is a header row. We don't want that. So we're going to just do dfpl 1 colon, right? And now it says revenue, which it should be, right? For income statement, profit and loss statement should be revenue. Revenue is the first column, and that is the correct. And so what we're going to do is dfpl that. Oh, whoops, what happened? Equals that. And then if we just press dfpl and you run that, let me zoom in. I don't know what happened. Whoops. Yeah, now it's correct. By the way, one sort of caution that you kind of have to be aware of is that if you run this cell again, right? If you run this cell again, you'll notice something interesting, which is actually, you know what? Here, let me show you. Suppose you do something else. X equals 1 plus 2 plus 3, right? And then you do df. Actually, ignore that. If you run this cell again, right, this entire cell, do you guys know what happens? Guess. 3 seconds to guess. Well, this happens. It gets chopped off. Because what happens is the dfpl is in memory. So if you run the same cell over, it's not like, I know what you guys are thinking. You guys think it's top to bottom, so it doesn't matter if I run this again. The value up to this point should be the same as whatever was on the top. but it's not. So you're basically, if you do this, if you keep running this, notice what happens. Cost of revenue, notice, right? Basically, it keeps moving down, right? So you got to be aware of that, because I was actually preparing this tutorial and then I found an issue and I couldn't realize, I thought it was a bug, but I just realized I was just rewriting the values over and over again. So I just want you to be aware of that. So now I just kind of, let me just start over. The way you do that is just by saying restart and run all. Just make sure that when you run this stuff, you know that you are overwriting the values, okay? All right, so that is DFPL. Now let's get on with the other rows, which is the balance sheet. Okay, so DFBS equals, let's look at the sort of the pattern again. So it's in between profit and loss statement and cash flow statement, okay? So we're just looking at whatever's in between the two. But remember, it might not be exactly like 2 up because we dropped probably some of these rows. So there's no space here. But just want you to know, like when you start pre-processing, just gotta know where you did all the deletions and stuff. Anyway, so with the df.iloc, right, take it from index BS all the way to index BS all the way to index CF, right? And I want to get rid of the first column, right? It has the data provided by Symfin. Like I want to get rid of that column, right? So if I do Alt Enter, DFBS, let's print it out. It's the same except it's missing something, right? So we want to get rid of the index, right? We want to get rid of this stuff, right? We want to get rid of that. And also, if you look at the bottom, it has like 3 of these things. So I want to say, come back up here, +1, -3, I think. That should work. No, I don't. But I actually want to keep that the timestamp. So I want to do minus, just index BS. Let me see. We're missing one. In -1 because I want, the reason why I did -1 is because I want this row. Technically, index, this is correct, but you know, for sake of putting this up here. So CF -3. Let's see if I got the bottom right. Total liability, conversion, debt. No liabilities and conversion and debt. Yes, so that is correct. Now, okay. Now let's do the other preprocessing. Right, so now we want to say the first row, remember this first row, we want this to be the columns, right? We want to be the columns, so we want to say dfbs, that columns equals dfbs.iloc 0, and if I do that, it should do it correctly, right? But now there's also the duplicate of this. We don't want that, so we want to say, just be careful when you guys start doing like splicing, because it's irreversible. Like when you chop it, you're like, if you do bs equals dfbs, like when you start doing this stuff, like it's irreversible, right? So make sure do this last. Like just actually, maybe I'll do it last. All right. So let's see. I also want to set the index, because the index isn't like 20, whatever this 20 is. It's the index that came with the old data frame. So we don't want that. So we want to say dfbs.set index, right? And let me just copy this. In million USD, in place equals true. And if you run that, dfbs, we got a key error. Okay, sorry for these random methods, guys. So the reason why I'm having trouble is because I keep running the same cell over and over, and I'm like tabbing between 2 screens, and it's just, nothing wrong with Python, the code or anything. It's just I'm running. Remember, I told you that if you run the code over on the same data frame, it's gonna start like chopping it, but you don't see it because you keep running the same cell over and over. So that's like the sort of only drawback to Jupyter Notebook, is that you can't see the changes. Like, I mean, if you run it over, you can't really, the change is occurring, but you don't know that it's occurring because in your programming mind, you're thinking like it's executing top to bottom, but it's not. So anyway, just want to give you that warning. So anyway, let's go back to the SetIndex thing. So I want to be able to set the index on this thing. So you want to say df bs.setIndex. I'm going to just copy this thing. In place equals true. Now, if you run this once, right, it works fine. Now, if you press it, enter again, you're like, what? This error occurred. But in your mind, when you're looking at this, you're thinking, hey, I only called this once. Why is it having problems? Because the first time you ran it, the index was set. However, you press enter again, you're like, what? My code didn't work? No, it worked in the first time. But you can't set index twice on the same column, right? It makes no sense. So anyway, so if I press Alt Enter, it doesn't, yeah, it should be the same. But now if you just type in dfbs, you'll notice that you get this nice pretty column. So that's the reason why I had to edit the video, because I was going crazy. I was like, what's wrong with this thing? Anyway, all right, so now you know, right? So now the other processing that we have to do is get rid of these nans, right? So we're gonna do that by saying dfbs.fill na with what? 0 and in place equals true. Okay, so that's good. Let's see how that looks. dfbs, whoops, dfbs. So now, oh, that's weird. The first column is still there. All right, let's get rid of that, but let me just check. The assets, okay. I should get rid of these columns. I should get rid of the first two columns, right? Okay, so we get rid of the first two columns. So we can say dfbs equals df. Well, before you do it, just to be safe, just print it out, see what happens first. Okay, cash and cash equivalents, that should be, right? Balance sheet, right? So that should come first. Or if you want to keep assets, that's okay too. You can just do 1 colon and do pre-processing later. All right, so bs equal df, what am I doing? Just copy paste. So if I do that, and then don't run this again. You gotta create a new cell, because if you run this cell again, it will chop the top row and the top row and the top. So make sure you don't do that, and you wonder why you're going crazy. So now if you come over here, right, assets, good, all the way from there, all the way to the row that says total liability, convertible debt, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so now that's good. Now, so we got the data frame for balance sheet set. So the next thing is pretty much the same as the cash flow statement. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy paste from the, well, actually the previous notebook. I worked on this already, obviously. So I'm just going to, let me just kind of run over with you so I don't get sort of, I'm not repeating the same thing over and over. So it's the same thing. We take the base data frame, we look for the row that has the word cash flow statement in it, right? So actually, let me just run that. And if I just press dfcf, right, it's the same thing. I mean, nothing, no rocket science here, right? We're just taking making sure the cash flow statement starts from this row that says in million USD. The second that says net income, in million USD net income. Okay, that's accurate. Now let's go all the way down. It should be change or in cash and cash equivalents, and that should be fine because that is the last row of the Excel anyway. And of course, 1 colon means get rid of this thing right here. Get rid of that. I don't want that. Okay, so, and the second line is I want to set the column of the first row. Sorry, I want to set the first row. Excuse me. Sorry about that. To the columns, right? So on the dfcf. Okay, good. And I want to get rid of the first row, right? Because now that is the column header. So now what you do is just set that, right? This means take the first, not the zeroth. Zeroth is the first, but so the first is the second. So go from the second on, right? So if you print that, all right. So now you have the first one. The first row has been chopped off. Right, net income. We want it to be a net income. right? We want it to be from the net income. So that's correct, net income, right? And now we want to set the index because this column of numbers, it means absolutely nothing, right? So we want to say dfcf, take, wait, is that right? No, that we already did that. Sorry about it. Getting confused here. We already did that. So we want to say SetIndex. My apologies. dfcf.setIndex $1,000,000 USD. Remember, run this only once. If you run it again, you see, I ran that, it was okay. Now, if you run it again, you're gonna have this problem because it's saying, hey, you already printed it. Why the hell you want to do it again? Now, if you do that, yeah, that funny column is now disappeared. And the last thing we want to do is get rid of these nans, right? So we're going to do that by fill NA with 0 in place equals true. And if you do df.cf, what? Huh, never heard this one. You're trying to be a copy of a slice from data frame? That's weird. Never heard that error before. Anyway, seemed to have worked. All right, so now we're done officially parsing all the data frames into the three major financial statements. So what we want to do now is actually be able to save them. Say we have DF, right? You have income statement, DF, PL. I don't know why I didn't say IS, but profit and loss, income statement, same thing. Dot to pickle. I believe it's data pickle. Data frame save pickle. So if you guys don't know what a pickle is basically like a binary file that you can actually load and reload. So you don't have to constantly keep doing this. You can actually. You don't have to do this like constant. iLoc this. Drop NA that. And if you already pre-process everything, you can just kind of save it. And this file is portable, so you can actually email it, whatever, run it on Python and other platforms, and it will run fine. So you can call this income statement. Was NVIDIA, right? NVDA income Q. Right, we're doing Q income statement dot pickle or something. PKL. You can repeat the same for balance sheet, cash flow statement. Actually, let's just call this IS. Too much typing. CFBS for balance sheet and CF for, and if you press enter, control enter, I will show. This is what the file looks like. If you open the file here, you'll notice there's 3 files. If you open it up, it will mean nothing. I mean, it's all gibberish. Can't even, well, Chrome can't open it. It's just binary file. So you can actually email that, save it for later, whatever you want to do. It's binary and it's pretty small, so you don't have to constantly just load and reload the Jupyter Notebook. And also, you can actually read this. Not just this file is Python compliant, so it's not just Jupyter Notebook. You can read it in just standard Python code. All right, so now let's kind of do some basic graphing before I end this. Just kind of show you what these things look like. So the first thing, if you guys remember, is Matplotlib. Let me see if I can show you guys what. I will put a link to this. So Matplotlib is sort of the standard Python sort of graphing utility. This is sort of like the original OG, original graph. Not original gangster, but OG graphing utility. You can read about it. It's like, there's tons and tons of stuff you can do. So let's look at let's look at the income statement, df. So remember, if you just do dfpl.plot, you will get a graph, but it will be this funny looking thing, which that means that you haven't declared this Jupyter Notebook specific command called Matplotlib inline. This means don't spawn a new window. If you ran this on command line, it would actually spawn a new window, but there's no window, right? It's just a browser. So if you just press enter, you will get all this stuff. Now, there's a problem with the data frame that we have right now, right? Which is you can't. I mean, this is data frame is to analyze data time series, and obviously this is not, and it's columnar data, right? So if you do it like this, you can't go this way. It has to be down this way. In other words, the columns and rows have been flipped, right? In order for this, so this graphing doesn't make sense. Like, right, Q216, what does this mean, right? So our columns and our rows have to be flipped. So if you guys remember in linear algebra, was that in college? I forget. You can do transpose. I don't know if you guys remember matrix transpose. So matrix transpose means like, oh, here's a good example right here. So basically, your rows and your columns sort of become flipped, right? So like, you can imagine like 45-degree, like kind of like, wait, see if I can show you, like kind of like a 45-degree flip, right? So is it 45? I guess it's like 90 degrees. Anyway, you know what I'm getting at. So what you can do is very simple. DFPL equals, actually let's not call that. I want to show you what DFPL.t looks like. So if you do that, so notice this change, right? So now this column, basically this became that, and that became this, right? And everything sort of flipped in the process, right? So if you look over here now this looks like, you know, you can't reference. You're not gonna. I mean, there's no point of reference Q415. Because what is Q415? It means nothing, right? You want to be able to reference sales general and administrative, like did it go up, did it go down, right? So you have to run this transpose. Now, DFPL.t, remember if you do this, if you said DFPL equal that, that's like forever overridden, okay? So, but it doesn't matter because we saved it, right? We pickled it. So now if DFPL, right? Now you see that it's accurate. The row should be the time and the column should be the thing that you reference. So let's look at DFPL that graph. I mean, sorry, that plot again. So now it looks accurate, right? Like before it was like, what is that? Like I can't even interpret that. Maybe unless you're like a data from Star Trek or something, all right? So you have this pretty thing. So, but the bad thing about Matplotlib is that it's not interactive. You can't like, you know, zoom in, like mouse over and see what's going on in a certain quarter or something. But you can see like trends, right? I mean, this is kind of an ugly thing. But let's look at kind of a basic, basic thing. Is this company making more money, right? That plot. Not revenue. What's going on? No revenue. Oh, wait, is there? Am I missing something? There's no revenue? Okay, and if you're not sure what columns you have, you can just type in df.columns. Huh, that's weird. Why do I not have columns? Data provided by Symfin. Oh, sorry. This dfpl.columns. Sorry about that. My brain is getting fried from all this editing. Revenue dot plot. And press enter. Ta-da! Okay, so it's going up. Well, that's a good thing, right? I mean, it's good, except you know all these charts are overlapping from each other, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not going to use Matplotlib. Instead, I'm going to show you this other thing called Plotlib. If I can show you, Plotlib is really cool because, by the way, this I'm not exactly sure how they make money, but it is free. But I'm not exactly sure how they do it. So if you can actually, can I see Plotlib demo? Plotlib demo. I'm not exactly how they make money. It's kind of weird because you do your charting and so they give you the chart, but they like host it or something like that. I don't know. It's a little funky. So let's look at this one. Okay, this one's good. So you notice it's like you can zoom. Let me see if I can zoom in without zooming that thing. So you can like mouse over, hover over, right? You can actually zoom in like this. And well, anyway, so you get the idea. It's interactive and it's more intuitive. We can do sort of like stacked bars, and so you can see like sort of return on investment, return on equity, return on assets, and all these funky ratios that I'm sure like data analysts use. And of course, I'm going to explain the math behind it and how do you do sort of like moving averages. So I'm not going to talk about trading. So people ask me about like support and resistance and all that. I'm not going to cover any of that stuff. So anyway, I think I'll end it there. So now you are able to parse the data from Symfin. By the way, this tactic that I'm telling you guys, it can pretty much apply to anything. Like from the previous episode, remember I mentioned Edgar, right? So Edgar has that interactive thing, but like I said, Edgar doesn't give you a whole lot of past information, so you kind of have to do like one by one, which is kind of the annoying part. So now you can see where the automation can kind of come, right? So like if you have the new cell, I mean you have a new Excel, they just basically just cell and just run the whole thing, kernel and restart all. So now, but that's not where sort of the automation, I mean that's not the end of automation, but that's one of it, right? But you can see how it can kind of, if you stack one automation on top of another, you can do lots of complex analysis really fast. So anyway, I think I will end it there. So next episode, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about. Why don't you leave in the comment what should I talk about? There's a lot more to come, but I'm kind of going step by step. I think one issue is that there are some people getting lost. I'm not sure if I am, because nobody's really telling. I don't really have enough statistically significant enough number to tell me that people are getting lost in terms of programming or for the investing side of things. Once we start doing things like discounted cash flow analysis, you might get lost. So if you are a complete noob, now is the time to raise your hand and say, hey, please, do a little tiny tutorial on this or whatever. Anyway, so with that said, I will end this here. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please make sure to leave it in the comments and make sure to thumb up and subscribe if you haven't done so. All right, I will see you in the next episode.